Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our next video on grade 11, paper 1. Again, looking at the Department of Basic Education, Gauteng paper of 2020. But again, I am not going to stick to the script. I am not going to just answer this question as is, because I believe this question can be so much more beautiful by including a 5.1.4. But you'll get to that on the last slide. So when we have a look at this question, I want you to try this question yourself, and then after you've tried it, you unpause the video or you play the video, and then you look at the way that I answer these questions. So go for it, hit the pause button, and try it yourself. Now that I hope you've tried it yourself, let's have a look at how I answer these questions. So starting with this first one, I love to analyze this question before I attempt it. So the first, it says that a school purchased a printer for 250,000. So automatically, I know that that is the P value. Next up, the printer depreciates. So I've got to use my depreciation formula. 10% per annum, reducing balance, so I know it's to the power of n. The printer will be replaced in 5 years, so there I have n. The inflation rate, so I know I've got to use inflation. The most important thing, ladies and gents, is picking the right formula. If you pick the wrong formula, you are going to get 1 out of a possible 2 or 3 marks. So the first question is, calculate the book value. So I know I've got to work with depreciation and substituting the values in, P as being 250,000, I as being 10%. Now I know that some teachers have a gripe against using 10%. So you can use 0.10 or 10 over 100, your choice. Okay. I don't really see the difference, but that's okay. Keep your teacher happy. That is one of the most important things you'll ever learn, is keep the person marking your exam as happy as a clam. Next up, punching this in your calculator, you get a book value of 147,622 Rand and 50 cents. So that means that is the value of the printer after 5 years. Let's have a look at the next 2 questions. Calculate the cost of a similar printer, so its replacement. In other words, inflation. So I'm going to work with my inflation formula, substituting P with 250,000. Replacement, your interest is 8%. Again, you can use 8 over 100 or 0.08. Okay? And this gives me a replacement value of 319,000 Rand after 5 years. Please understand what this means. To replace the printer in 5 years, it's going to cost you 319,000 Rand for the same printer. Okay. Now 5.1.3 is where it becomes a bit more interesting. It says there, calculate the amount of money that must be saved in order to have enough money to replace the printer after 5 years. So, how much do I need extra? Well, I need the replacement value, so how much it's going to cost me to replace it, minus how much I'm going to get by selling it. Now, my humblest apologies, that mustn't be 0.4, 0.3. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. So let's try this by looking at, first of all, what is the replacement value? Well, the replacement value, it's going to cost us 319,000 to replace that printer. But how much money am I going to get? Well, I'm going to have to take the book value, but I can't sell it at that. I can sell it only at 95% of that. So the difference between what I need to pay and how much I'm actually going to get in my pocket is how much money I need to save extra. And that is 178,829 Rand and 2 cents. At this moment of time, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to now go off on a tangent. So let me put a 5.1.4 in there. A sinking fund is set up to replace the printer. They make equal payments starting at the end of year 1 until the end of the 5th year. The bank offers them an interest at 8% per annum, compounded quarterly. Calculate the value of the payments. So first of all, I need to draw up a timeline. So drawing up my timeline, I've got my 5 years. Each of those X's represent one payment. So what am I going to do? I'm going to calculate the value of each of these payments individually as at the end of the 5-year period. So I'm going to now say, take that first X, at 8% per annum compounded quarterly, but how many quarters is it going to run interest for to get there? How many months? How many years is that? From 1, it's going to be 2. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 years of interest. But remember, we are working with quarters. So how many quarters is that? Well, that's 16. Then I'm going to take that second X, also at 8% interest, but now for 3 years. So this means for 12 quarters. Then I'm going to take the next X, also at 8% interest, but now for 2 years. Quarterly for 8 quarters. Then I'm going to take that second last X for 1 year worth of interest, so in other words 4 quarters. What about the last X? Remember, I am going to pay that X into the bank and then I'm going to withdraw the money. So is it going to run any interest? Is it going to accrue any interest? No, it's just going to be X. Whew, this is a long, interesting sum. But what must the value of all of these payments be worth? It must be worth 178,829 Rand and 2 cents. So how do I solve X here? Step by step, I take out an X common. And that leaves me with all of those interest rates. And I'm way too lazy to write out all of them. But remember, that last plus 1 is for that X. If I take out X common, I'm left with 1. So I'm going to divide both sides by that bracket. Everything inside, again, I'm a little bit lazy in writing out all of those brackets. This I'm going to now put in my, this right-hand side that side I'm going to put into my calculator. And I'm going to find a value of 30,949 Rand and 70 cents. This means that is the value of the equal payments I am going to have to make at the end of every year to get 178,829 Rand and 2 cents. Now this is an interesting sinking fund question, but definitely one where if your teacher wants to stretch you, they can definitely do that. So this is Mr. VG signing out. Please tune in for the next one, where we are going to tackle some more timelines and also look at effective interest rates. So stay tuned for our next video on financial mathematics. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Cheers.